So this video is a video of the top 3 active infinite gold exploits as of this point in time in Season 16 of Sea of Thieves. So if you do enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe because it helps the channel out a ton, and without any further ado, let's get into these methods. So this video is going to be in order of least best to best exploit, so if you want to, you can skip to the end, but I would recommend watching through just in case you haven't seen any of the other exploits. The first one we're going to start with is going to be the infinite pristine boar tusks exploit. So let's get into how to do it. So first things first, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and head down below deck towards your quest table. Once you're there, click into it, go to Voyages, scroll over to Hunter's Call, click into it, go to Hunting Voyages, and dive to a pirate's Boar Hunt. Clicking the option to dive to this voyage will spawn you at any big island anywhere on the map except for the Devil's Roar. Once you do surface from your dive, go ahead and park your ship anywhere around the island and then head onto the island to find wherever the Boar's Wallow is. Once you do arrive at the Boar's Wallow, you're going to want to go ahead and pull your shovel out and dig all 5 pieces of loot up. The reason you want to dig the pieces of loot up is because in one of the following steps you'll be canceling the voyage, and if the loot is still buried while you cancel the voyage, all the loot that was buried will despawn, so you want to make sure you dig up all 5 pieces of loot before you cancel the voyage. Once you do have all 5 pieces of loot dug up, you're going to want to find where the boar is and then let the boar kill you, or kill yourself near the boar with fire bombs or blunder bombs. Once you have been killed by the boar or bombs, you're going to want to head through the door on the ferry of the dam to get back to your ship. Once you're on your ship, you're going to want to cancel the voyage that you put down and then revote the same voyage back up. Canceling the voyage will make the island think that the boar that you spawned on the island is a naturally spawning boar, replacing the grizzly tusks that it spawns with pristine tusks, which sell for a decent amount more. And the reason you want to put a new quest down is if you're going to grind this out, you're going to want to put another one down to head to the next island. Once you have done that, go ahead and head onto the island and then find wherever the boar is. Once you find the boar, you're going to want to go ahead and kill them, and you'll notice, like I said before, all the grizzly tusks that it drops, which is 2, will now be 2 pristine tusks instead, which sell for around 6 to 7k gold with the grade 5 Reapers or Hunter's Call emissary flag, which is pretty good. Once you have killed the boar, you can go ahead and put all of the loot on your ship, including the rest of the stuff, not just the tusks, and then once you've done that, you can go ahead and head to the next island that you already voted down. Once you did do the Crescent Isle one, you can go ahead and do the Cannon Cove one, and then repeat the process, selling back and forth between the two however many times you want, and get however many pristine tusks you want. I grinded this method out for about 26 minutes, and I ended up with 10 pristine tusks and 25 of the other pieces of loot, which ended up selling for around 111,000 gold with a grade 5 Hunter's Call flag. And of course, that was only 26 minutes of grinding, and I did the math, that would give you around 250k gold with a grade 5 Hunter's Call flag every hour of grinding this method, which is pretty decent in my opinion. But of course, the majority of people aren't going to be doing this for the gold, they're going to be doing it for the Hunter's Call levels, which I ended up getting 3 of, and it was only 26 minutes of grinding, so 3 levels for 26 minutes is pretty good for Hunter's Call. Now, the next exploit that we're going to go over is a lot of people's favorite on my channel currently, which is the Infinite Ancient Vault Keys method, and it's pretty insane, so just have a look. So first things first, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and head down below deck towards your quest table. Once you're there, click into it, scroll to Tall Tales, click Shores of Gold, scroll down to Wild Rose, and then dive to Location. This is going to put you at the Outpost Sanctuary Outpost. Once you surface at Sanctuary Outpost, go ahead and turn your wheel to the left to face the small cluster of rocks in the distance. This small cluster of rocks surrounds the island Rapier Cay, and this is where you'll be heading to continue this method. So once you do arrive at Rapier Cay, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and head down below deck towards your quest table. Once you're there, click into it, click Voyages, click Gold Hoarders, scroll down to Treasure Vault, and start up a Captain's Treasure Vault. In starting up this voyage, you'll be given a golden wayfinder compass that has a 50% chance to be pointing towards Rapier Cay, and a 50% chance to be pointing towards Crescent Isle. If it is pointing towards Rapier Cay, go ahead and head down below deck towards your quest table, cancel the voyage, and put it back down until your compass is pointing towards Crescent Isle. And the way to tell which island your compass is pointing at is how fast the needle in the compass is moving. If the needle is barely moving in the compass, it's probably pointing towards Crescent Isle, and if it's moving super fast in the compass, it's pointing towards Rapier Cay. So you want the needle in the compass to barely be moving at all. Once your compass is pointing at Crescent Isle away from Rapier Cay, go ahead and head on to Rapier Cay and begin digging randomly until you find the Ancient Chest. The Ancient Chest is pretty easy to find, taking me around 15 seconds on average to find the chest. Once you do find and dig the chest, only dig the chest once and then kill the rest of the skeletons. Once all the skeletons are killed, digging the chest once will keep the chest there if you cancel the voyage, so you can go ahead and head back onto your ship, cancel the voyage and put it back down and get Crescent Isle on your compass again, and repeat the process and get however many chests you want. Each chest contains a Crescent Isle gold key, which if you don't know, every gold key sells for about 8,000 to 9,000 gold with the grade 5 gold holders or Reaper's emissary flag, which is a pretty decent amount. I ended up grinding this method for about 30 minutes and I ended up with 30 ancient chests containing 1 gold key each, so 30 gold keys, 60 trinkets, and 3 vestiges of power dropping from the skeletons, which ended up selling for around 430,000 gold with a grade 5 gold hoarder's emissary flag. For only 30 minutes of work, that's insanely good. And since that was only 30 minutes of work, you can obviously expect to get around over 800,000 gold every hour of grinding this method, which is just crazy. And obviously for those who care about rep, here's a clip of how much rep I gained. Now, obviously, that exploit's pretty insane, getting at around 800,000 gold every hour, but you truly wouldn't believe me when I tell you that the next exploit is even crazier and probably one of the most broken exploits that have ever been in Sea of Thieves. So let's get into the last one. So this is an exploit that's been in the game pretty much as long as Kingsley items have been in the game, and I'm just now getting around to posting it, so I apologize for taking so long to post this, but it's finally here, so let's get into the video. So first things first, what you're going to want to do is either start up a solo brig or a solo galleon. I recommend doing solo galleon since, as you can see, I'm starting a solo brig, and from testing I figured out it's really not that good on solo brig. It's way easier to do this on solo galleon. And once you are in solo galleon adventure on high seas, what you're going to want to do is start another account either on another console or have your friend start up a solo galleon on high seas as well in the same exact server as you. Once you do both vote up a solo galleon ship on high seas on the same servers, you're going to want to go down below deck and then vote for opposing factions in Hourglass and then dive to fight. You're going to want to dive to fight at the same time because what you're trying to do is get an Hourglass match against each other. Once you do queue against each other in Hourglass, what you're going to want to do is anchor the ships right next to each other and then pop holes in one of the ships. Once you did pop holes in whichever ship you wanted the holes to be popped in, the player who's on the ship that is sinking, you're going to want to go and find a bell on the ship. The bell is either next to the captain's cabin door or on the top of the crow's nest. Once you are at the bell, what you're going to want to do is use the sword glitch to crash your game right before your ship sinks. And you want to make sure it's right before your ship sinks, because if you do this correctly, it'll basically count you as never sinking on that ship since there was no player on that ship when it sunk. And since there was no one on the ship, Hourglass shouldn't be up, so it'll respawn the ship as if it never had Hourglass on the same server as the ship you're fighting against, therefore getting you 2 galleons in the same server. And you're going to want to make sure you stay on the screen that I'm on for about 30 seconds to a minute to make sure your ship has actually fully sunk so you won't sink with it and then be teleported to a new server. And the way to tell that you did this right is either you'll spawn right next to the enemy ship that sunk you, or you'll spawn on your own ship and not get the death cutscene of your ship sinking. But the easiest way to truly test if you are on the same server is have one of the galleons vote up the Reaper's mark flag and then look for it on the map. Once you are sure that you have both galleons on the same server, you're going to want to bring the galleon that won the Hourglass fight to an outpost to lower that Hourglass so you don't get invaded. Once you did lower the Hourglass, you're going to want to go ahead and bring both ships to Lookout Point. Now you can do this at any skeleton camp in Small Island, but due to testing I figured out that Lookout Point in my experience is the best one to do this at. Now, once the first out of the 2 galleons is at the skeleton camp, all the players on this galleon can go ahead and head onto the island while waiting for the second galleon to get there. This galleon, which we're going to call galleon number 1, can have 1 to 4 players on it. It doesn't really matter how many. I recommend only having 3 players on it because galleon 2 will have 1 player, so if you invite the galleon 2 once they're done with their job to galleon 1, they can get the same gold as everyone else. Now, once you do have the galleon 1 players on the island and in place ready to do this, you can go ahead and bring galleon 2 a little bit closer, but you're going to want to raise sails before you get close to the island. Once you do raise sails when you're close to the island, you're going to want to head out and swim until you get the island banner. Once you do get this island banner, you're going to want to stop exactly where you are and then have someone sail the ship and anchor when your character is at the halfway point. If they anchor correctly, half of the ship will be within the island banner and the other half will be outside of the island banner. And this is the ideal spot that you want the galleon to be. Half of the galleon inside the banner and half the galleon outside of the banner. Now, I obviously anchored a little bit late. It's more like 2/3 within the island banner and 1/3 outside of the island banner, but this should still work. Just you want to make sure you get half and half, not 2/3 and 1/3 like I did. And if you're experienced enough, it's not necessary to have someone swim out, but it's the best way to confirm that you're in the right spot. But once you do have ship 1's players on the island and ready to go, and the ship 2 players with the ship halfway in the island banner and halfway out of the island banner, what you can basically do is have only one player on ship 2, go down to the bottom deck of the galleon, and then run from the front of the galleon to the back of the galleon. Doing this, you're crossing over the island banner repetitively, basically respawning captains every single time you cross the island banner, because this is how the captain spawning system works. Once you get into island banner radius, the island decides if it wants to spawn a captain or not. Every time you cross this banner, there's another chance for another captain to spawn. And if you are doing this correctly, ship number 1 should see captains start spawning on the island, and if you don't see captains, go ahead and run around the island, because sometimes captains will get stuck at a certain spawn point and it needs players to be within their radius to spawn them. But eventually you should start seeing captains spawn everywhere. I'll show you just a couple clips just to prove that this works and show you what the captain spawning looks like. And don't be surprised when you don't see 15 captains on the island at the same time, because islands have a max of 2 captains per island. So once you do kill a captain, if you're doing it correctly, a new one will respawn on top of that captain. So if captains aren't spawning, just be sure that you killed the last 2 that are on the island, because that's probably what's making them not spawn. So now that you hopefully understand how this works, I'm going to get into how much we actually made doing this. So we had ship 1 running around killing captains on the island, and ship 2 running below deck spawning captains for about 30 minutes straight. And in this 30 minutes, we ended up having ship 1 kill and grab the orders of 73 skeleton captains and Ashen Guardians, but this is not where that ends. What we did next is had the ship 2 player join ship 1 to dig up all of the captain's orders. And during this digging, which lasted about 2 hours total, we had about 88 more skeleton captains and Ashen Guardians spawn, which, if you don't know, made up a total of 161 skeleton captains and Ashen Guardians. And after about 3 hours total of doing the entire process, we had, of course, 161 captain skulls and a ton of Ashen chests and storage crates that we obviously couldn't count because it was way too many. And we also had about 4 Reaper's chests and 4 Reaper's bounties to go along with this loot. And in selling this, I made about 1 million gold and 1,000 doubloons, which is pretty good because the catch is that we didn't have Emissary at all when we sold this. And obviously, if we had a grade 5 Reaper's Emissary flag, in selling this, we would have made about 2,500 doubloons and 2,500,000 gold, which is just insane. And another catch is, we did this with 2 players, so if you did have 4 players on the ship when you're digging, you could basically cut down our time in half to about 1 hour and 30 minutes, which is just crazy. And for anyone who cares, which most people probably do, I forgot to record this part, but for reputation, CT, the person I was playing with, told me he went from level 27 in Order of Souls to level 47 in Order of Souls, which is 20 whole levels. That's insane. But anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. So if you did enjoy the video or you did learn something from watching this video, make sure to like and subscribe because it helps the channel out a ton. And if you do enjoy my content on this channel, I recently started another channel specifically for gaming content that'll be uploaded sometime in the next week. So if you do like entertainment-based gaming style content, go ahead and head to that channel and leave a sub for me. That would mean the world to me. But anyways, that's pretty much it for this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out. And of course, you can always guess which island I'm at in the comments below, but this one's relatively easy.